The last hope among the stars. The crystalline towers of New Alexandria cast rainbow shadows across High Counselor Mira's chambers as she studied the holographic display before her. Her four eyes, each a different shade of violet, narrowed as she processed the data streaming in from the outer defense network. The Lemurian civilization had known peace for so long that many considered their early warning system merely decorative, another piece of art in their museum-like society. But today, it screamed. High Counselor, her aide, Thex, burst through the doorway, his bioluminescent markings pulsing with anxiety. The readings, they're unlike anything in our historical records. Mira's outer membrane rippled with concern as she manipulated the holographic controls. The display expanded, showing the vast expanse of space surrounding their star system. At the edges, a mass of signatures approached, thousands upon thousands of ships, moving with the coordinated precision of a hive mind. The horizon swarm, she whispered, the words leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. Their scientists had theorized about their existence, but most had dismissed them as spacefarer legends. How long? 72 hours until they reach our outer colonies, Thex responded, his voice trembling. Our defensive capabilities are limited. The last word hung heavy in the air, a polite euphemism for non-existent. The Lemurians had spent the last 3 millennia transforming their weapons into works of art, their military installations into gardens and museums. They had believed that enlightenment meant leaving violence behind. Now that decision might cost them everything. Mira activated the emergency council beacon, and within minutes, the chamber filled with the holographic projections of the other council members. Their normally serene faces showed varying degrees of panic as they absorbed the situation. We must evacuate, Council Member Zora suggested, her usually melodic voice sharp with fear. To where? Council Member Crix countered. The swarm will overtake any evacuation fleet before we reach the nearest habitable system. Mira raised her hand, silencing the growing debate. There might be another option. She gestured, and a new hologram appeared. A small blue-green planet that seemed unremarkable at first glance. Earth? Zara recoiled. The Death World. They're barbarians. They're survivors, Mira corrected. She expanded the display, showing various clips gathered by their long-range observation posts. Humans building cities in impossible places, fighting natural disasters, adapting to every challenge their harsh world threw at them. And their warriors. The gravity alone on their world would crush our bones, Crix noted. Their climate swings from freezing to boiling. They eat poison for pleasure and deliberately expose themselves to radiation for entertainment. They're insane. They're exactly what we need, Mira insisted. She pulled up more data. Humans defending the weak, rushing into danger to save strangers, fighting against overwhelming odds. Look at their history. They value protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It's fundamental to their culture. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Asking Deathworlders for help was unprecedented. The risk was enormous. But extinction was certain without intervention. Even if they agree to help, Zara said slowly, their ships would take weeks to reach us. Mira's outer membrane rippled with determination. Not if we give them access to our quantum tunneling network. We can transmit the coordinates directly to their military command. The vote was swift and unanimous. Desperation had a way of cutting through bureaucracy. Within hours, their most powerful transmitter was redirected toward Earth, broadcasting on all frequencies their scientists could imagine. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Major Sarah Chen was just finishing her midnight workout when the alert came through. The message was simple, elegant in its desperation. To the warriors of Earth, we are the Lemurian Collective. Our civilization faces extinction from an overwhelming force. We have forgotten the art of war. Our children have never known violence. We know of your world's classification. We know your strength. Please help us survive. Sarah's fingers flew across the console, running authentication protocols even as she sent priority alerts up the chain of command. The message was genuine, and the threat was real. She allowed herself a small smile as she imagined the reactions of Earth's various military commands to this development. Humanity had long wondered if they would find friends or enemies among the stars. Instead, they had found something else. Those who needed their protection. They had spent their entire history learning to survive on their death world, becoming stronger, faster, more resilient than any species that evolved. Now it was time to put those lessons to use. As emergency meetings were called and rapid response teams mobilized across the globe, Sarah began drafting preliminary tactical analyses. The Lumerians' transmission had included basic data about the approaching threat, enough to start planning, not enough to feel confident. But confidence wasn't a luxury they had time for. Humanity had 72 hours to prepare for their first interstellar war, and they would face it the same way they faced everything else, head-on, with determination, ingenuity, and the unique strength that came from evolving on a world that had tried its best to kill them every single day. The Deathworlders were going to war. Operation Stormbreak. They evolved in a garden paradise and turned their weapons into art installations. Colonel Marcus Rivera's voice carried across the Joint Chiefs emergency briefing room. Now they've got less than 70 hours before first contact with an hostile alien swarm. Major Sarah Chen stood at attention beside the holographic display, watching the assembled military leaders process the situation. In the 18 hours since the Lumerian distress call, Earth's combined forces had moved with unprecedented speed and unity. Our advantages, Sarah continued, highlighting sections of the tactical display. The Lumerians' quantum tunneling network can transport our ships directly to their system. Their sensor data suggests the swarm uses biological technology, ships that are essentially massive living organisms. And most importantly, they've never encountered humans before. And our disadvantages? General Zhang asked, her eyes sharp. We're going in blind to an alien battlefield, defending a species that hasn't seen combat in thousands of years, against an enemy we barely understand. Sarah's lips curved into a slight smile. In other words, business as usual for human beings. A quiet chuckle rippled through the room. Humanity had spent its entire existence adapting to impossible situations. This was just another Tuesday. Operation Stormbreak is a go, Admiral Hayes announced, standing. Major Chen, you'll coordinate with the Lumerian High Council. Colonel Rivera, you have tactical command of the response fleet. Dismissed. As the room cleared, Sarah activated the quantum communication link the Lumerians had established. High Counselor Mira's holographic form appeared, all four eyes widening at the flurry of activity visible behind Sarah. Your species moves with remarkable speed, Mira observed. We've had practice, Sarah replied, but we need more information about the swarm. Every detail matters. Mira's outer membrane rippled with distress. Our long-range scans show they operate as a single consciousness. Their ships are biological constructs, ranging from scout-sized organisms to massive world ships. They consume everything in their path. Metals, organics, energy itself. We've observed them strip entire uninhabited systems bare. Like locusts on a cosmic scale, Sarah mused. That's actually good news. Good? Mira's bioluminescence flickered in confusion. Biological systems have biological weaknesses, and humans are very, very good at exploiting weaknesses. Sarah pulled up the tactical display. Now, about your defensive installations. 12 hours later, Colonel Rivera stood on the bridge of the UES Hyperion, Earth's newest carrier, as it prepared for quantum tunneling. Around him, 30 ships of Earth's finest represented every major nation, carrying a mixed force of Marines, special operations teams, and enough firepower to level a continent. All ships report ready, his XO, Commander Jane Wong, announced. Quantum coordinates locked. Tunneling in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. Rivera's stomach lurched as space itself folded around the fleet. A heartbeat later, they emerged in the Lumerian system, 3 massive suns casting multiple shadows across the bridge. Contact, the sensor officer shouted. Multiple biological signatures at extreme range. Size, sir, the largest ones are bigger than anything in our database. Rivera studied the tactical display, his mind already formulating plans. Launch recon drones. I want detailed scans of their biology. And get me a secure channel to Major Chen. Sarah's hologram appeared on the bridge. Behind her, the crystalline spires of New Alexandria glittered. The Lumerians are in position, Colonel. Their civilian ships are evacuating to the system's core worlds. Good, because our scans confirm your worst fears. That's not a fleet out there. It's a single organism. Those ships are more like appendages than individual units. Rivera highlighted the massive signatures. But that gives us an opportunity. Major, how are the modifications to the Lumerians' art installations coming along? Sarah's grin was fierce. Would you believe their ceremonial light shows actually make perfect targeting arrays? We've got their entire defensive network repurposed. Just waiting on your signal. Excellent. Rivera turned to his crew. Battle stations. All ships, prepare for combat deployment. Let's show these cosmic locusts why Earth is classified as a death world. The swarm approached with inexorable purpose, unaware that its next meal had teeth. The first wave of scout ships entered the system's outer reaches, their biological sensors detecting the rich bounty of metals and energy that awaited them. They never detected the modified stealth drones that attached to their hulls, gathering biological data. Never noticed the quantum fluctuations as Earth's ships maneuvered into optimal firing positions. Never suspected that the beautiful arrays of crystals and light throughout the system were now part of the most sophisticated targeting network ever created. The swarm had evolved to consume. Humanity had evolved to survive. And in the next few hours, the galaxy was about to learn which drive was stronger. All ships. Rivera's voice was calm as he gave the order that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. Weapons free. Operation Stormbreak is now in effect. The darkness of space lit up as Earth's fleet revealed itself, and the battle for the Lumerian system began. The price of peace. The first shots of humanity's interstellar war weren't fired from their advanced railguns or plasma cannons. Instead, the battle began with light. Precisely calibrated beams from repurposed Lumerian art installations, transformed into the galaxy's most beautiful targeting system. Multiple hits confirmed, Commander Wong reported, her voice steady as the tactical display lit up with data. Biological analysis incoming. Sir, you need to see this. Colonel Rivera studied the readings with growing interest. The swarm's scout ships weren't just biological. They were networked. Quantum-entangled nervous systems linked each vessel to the others, creating a single vast consciousness spread across thousands of bodies. Major Chen, he called through the quantum link. Are you seeing this? Already on it, Sarah replied from her position in New Alexandria's command center. Beside her, High Counselor Mira watched in fascination as human military precision merged with Lumerian technology. Their biology is incredible. Each ship is like a neuron in a giant brain. But that means they share more than just consciousness, Rivera finished. They share pain. All ships switch to sonic weapons. Let's give this hive mind something to think about. The modified sonic cannons fired, their frequencies calibrated to the swarm's biological resonance. The effect was immediate and devastating. Scout ships writhed in space, their organic hulls vibrating at frequencies that human scientists had originally developed to deal with Earth's most dangerous predators. But the swarm adapted quickly. The larger ships began moving forward, their massive bulk absorbing the sonic attacks. They were learning, evolving in real time to counter human tactics. Multiple launches detected, Wong announced. They're deploying some kind of spores. Thousands of them. The spores exploded into clouds of crystalline organisms, each no bigger than a human fist, but moving with lethal purpose. They swarmed toward the Earth fleet, their structures specifically designed to bypass traditional shields. "Fascinating," Mira whispered, watching through the command center's displays. "They're creating countermeasures based on our own technology. The crystalline structure mimics our art installations." "That's not fascinating. That's a problem," Sarah countered. But her mind was already racing. "Wait, Colonel, remember those old videos I showed you? The ones about Earth's extremophile organisms?" Rivera's eyes lit up with understanding. "The thermal vents. Commander Wong, reconfigure our shield harmonics. Match the frequency of the bacteria that live in Earth's deepest ocean vents." The crystalline swarm smashed against the modified shields and shattered. The organisms had evolved to counter Lemurian technology, but were unprepared for defenses based on life forms that thrived in environments that would kill most species. But the swarm was far from defeated. The massive world ships moved into position, their organic weapons charging with gathered stellar energy. Each blast could vaporize a small moon, and they had dozens ready to fire. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Rivera ordered. "Major Chen, we need those modified art installations now." Sarah's fingers flew across the control panels, coordinating with Lemurian engineers who were watching their beautiful creations transformed into weapons of war. The crystalline arrays throughout the system hummed with power, their precise geometries focusing and redirecting energy in ways their creators had never imagined. The world ships fired. Space itself seemed to burn. But instead of destruction, the beams of energy encountered the repurposed Lemurian arrays. The crystals caught the energy, split it, redirected it through countless prismatic pathways, and sent it back. The swarm reeled as its own weapons were turned against it. But in that moment of chaos, Sarah noticed something strange in the data. "Colonel," she called urgently. "These readings, the swarm isn't just attacking. It's trying to communicate." Rivera frowned at his own displays. The energy patterns did seem to carry information, complex quantum signatures hidden within the attacks. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it with the Lemurian quantum computers. But sir, I don't think this is just about resources. The swarm, I think it's running from something." Before Rivera could respond, the tactical situation changed dramatically. The world ships were pulling back, reorganizing. But instead of retreat, they were forming a new pattern, one that seemed hauntingly familiar to the Lemurian observers. "By the three suns," Mira breathed, her bioluminescence pulsing with shock. "That's a prayer formation. From our most ancient records, before we gave up warfare." The swarm's next transmission came not in energy weapons, but in pure quantum signals, finally calibrated to communicate with the combined human-Lemurian systems. As the translation appeared on screens throughout the fleet, silence fell across every bridge and command center. "The darkness comes. The message read. The void between galaxies stirs. We consume to grow strong, to fight what hungers in the empty spaces. Help us, or all will be devoured." Rivera and Sarah exchanged looks through their quantum link. Humanity had come to protect a peaceful civilization from a seemingly mindless threat. Instead, they had stumbled upon something far larger, a war that had been raging in secret since before Earth's first civilizations arose. And now they had to decide: remain defenders of the Lemurian system, or join a fight for the survival of all life in the galaxy. The world ships waited in their ancient prayer formation, while in the vast darkness between the stars, something stirred: warriors and diplomats. The Grand Council Chamber of New Alexandria had never hosted such an unlikely gathering. Lemurian high counselors, their crystalline robes catching starlight, sat alongside Earth's military commanders in their dark uniforms. And floating above the central platform, a shimmering quantum projection showed the consciousness that guided the swarm, its ever-shifting form reminiscent of both neural networks and stellar phenomena. "We are the memory." The swarm's collective voice resonated through quantum channels. We remember what the galaxy chooses to forget. Major Sarah Chen watched the assembled representatives, noting how the Lumerians' bioluminescence flickered with anxiety, while her fellow humans leaned forward with intense focus. Colonel Rivera sat beside her, his expression carefully neutral as he studied their former enemy. "Show us," he said simply. The chamber's holographic systems, merged with the swarm's biological technology, created a vast display of the space between galaxies. At first, it seemed empty, but then they saw it. Patches of void darker than mere absence of light, moving with terrible purpose. The hunger, the memory explained. It devours not just matter and energy, but existence itself. It has consumed 17 galaxies in the time we have watched. The Milky Way is next. High Counselor Mira's outer membrane rippled with distress. This is why you consume worlds. To gather strength against this threat. We absorb resources to grow our collective consciousness, to become vast enough to resist the hunger's influence. But we are failing. Each galaxy it devours makes it stronger, more difficult to detect. Your species abandoned warfare, became beings of pure creativity. Humans evolved to survive against all odds. Together, we might have a chance. Sarah exchanged glances with Rivera. The tactical implications were staggering. "How long?" she asked. "At current velocities, the hunger will reach the galaxy's edge in 60 years. That's not much time to prepare for an intergalactic war," Rivera noted. "We've achieved more with less," Sarah countered, her mind already racing with possibilities. The Lumerians' quantum technology, the swarm's biological engineering, and human adaptability. It's a combination no other galaxy had. The chamber erupted in discussion. Lumerian counselors debated the ethics of returning to warfare, even in defense of existence itself. Human military leaders argued strategies and resource allocation. The memory washed it all, its form shifting between patterns of stars and synapses. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah noticed something in the holographic display of the void. A pattern in the hunger's movement that seemed familiar. "Colonel," she whispered, pulling up data from Earth's historical archives. "Look at this. The hunger's expansion pattern. It matches theoretical models of human neural networks. It's not just consuming. It's learning." Rivera's eyes widened as he studied the comparison. It's adapting to each galaxy it devours, incorporating their unique characteristics. That's why the memory's traditional strategies are failing. The hunger keeps evolving. Just like life on Earth had to evolve to survive our death world. Sarah added, "Maybe that's why we're here. Not just for our physical capabilities, but for our entire species' experience with constant adaptation." The debate in the chamber reached a crescendo until Mira's voice cut through the noise. "We abandoned war because we believed it was the path to enlightenment. But our ancestors fought for a reason, to protect what they loved. Perhaps true enlightenment is knowing when to create, and when to defend creation itself." A hush fell over the chamber. The memory's form coalesced into something more focused, more purposeful. "Then let us forge an alliance unlike any the galaxy has seen. The wisdom of the Lumerian collective, the adaptive strength of humanity, and our own accumulated knowledge of the cosmos. We'll need to act fast," Rivera said. 60 years sounds like a lot, but preparing for a threat of this scale will take everything we've got. Major Chen, thoughts? Sarah stood, addressing the chamber. "We start with what we know. The Lumerians can upgrade their art installations into a galaxy-wide early warning system. The memory can teach us about biological technology we never imagined. And humanity." She smiled grimly. "We can teach the galaxy how to fight like their survival depends on it. Because it does." "There's another factor," the memory added, its form rippling with what might have been concern. "Our latest observations suggest the hunger may be aware of our alliance. Its patterns have changed. It's accelerating." New data flowed through the holographic display, showing the dark patches moving with increasing speed through the void. The 60-year timeline was no longer certain. Rivera stood. Then we don't have time for lengthy deliberations. Earth's governments are already mobilized for war. High Counselor, can we count on the collective's support? Mira looked around the chamber at her fellow counselors, then at the humans who had come to their aid, and finally at the vast consciousness they had so recently fought. Her 4 eyes gleamed with determination. We will remember not just how to fight, she declared, but why we fight. The collective stands with Earth and the memory. As the alliance was formalized, Sarah watched the holographic display of the approaching hunger. Humanity had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day, forcing them to become stronger, smarter, more resilient. Now they would help 2 very different civilizations rediscover their own strength. The war for existence itself was about to begin, and the galaxy's greatest Deathworlders would lead the charge. A new dawn. 1 month after the formation of the Trilateral Alliance, the crystalline spires of New Alexandria had transformed. Where once they housed art galleries and meditation chambers, they now contained some of the most advanced military research facilities in known space. Human scientists worked alongside Lumerian engineers, while the memory's vast consciousness provided insights into cosmic phenomena humans had barely begun to theorize about. Major Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the newly established Joint Command Center, watching a demonstration that would have been impossible just weeks ago. Below, a group of Lumerian volunteers moved through combat training exercises, their naturally peaceful bodies enhanced by modified versions of the memory's biological technology. They were learning to fight again, but on their own terms, combining their artistic precision with humanity's tactical knowledge. Remarkable progress, Colonel Rivera said, joining her at the window. When I first met them, they couldn't even watch training simulations without feeling ill. Amazing what the threat of universal annihilation will do for motivation, Sarah replied, but her tone was thoughtful rather than humorous. The latest deep space scans came in. The hunger's acceleration is continuing. New estimate puts first contact at 43 years instead of 60. Rivera nodded grimly. The memory's latest data suggests it's not just moving faster, it's moving with purpose. Almost like it knows we're preparing for it. Sarah finished. She pulled up a holographic display showing the hunger's movement patterns. Look at this. The way it's adjusting its course, consuming specific systems along the way. It's not just gathering strength anymore. It's gathering specific types of resources. It's preparing for us just as we're preparing for it. Rivera mused. The memory was right. It learns, adapts, just like we do. The quantum communication system chimed, and High Counselor Mira's form appeared beside them. Her bioluminescence had taken on new patterns lately. The peaceful swirls now interwoven with sharper, more dynamic shapes that reflected her people's evolution. The first phase of the stellar shield is complete, she announced. 20% of our artistic arrays have been converted to the new defensive configuration. The memory's biological interfaces are integrating perfectly with our quantum networks. And the human contribution? Rivera asked. Your tactical prediction algorithms are fascinating, Mira said, her outer membrane rippling with what they had learned was amusement. We never imagined our art could be used to calculate weapon trajectories with such precision. The test results are beyond our most optimistic projections. Sarah smiled. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to think creatively about survival. The Lumerian arrays were being transformed into a defense network that combined art, science, and military strategy in ways none of them had imagined possible. The memory joined their conversation, its quantum presence spreading across the holographic displays. We have completed analysis of the human genetic modifications. Your species' ability to survive in hostile conditions can be replicated and enhanced through our biological engineering. The first volunteers are ready to begin testing. That was fast, Sarah noted. Our scientists said it would take months just to understand the basic principles. Your scientists think linearly, the memory responded. We think as one. But it is your drive to survive against all odds that makes the modifications possible. We merely provide the means to enhance what is already there. An alert sounded throughout the command center. New data was pouring in from the deep space sensors. The hunger had changed course again, and this time the shift was dramatic. It's headed straight for the Andromeda Galaxy, Rivera observed. But why? That adds years to its journey here. Unless... Sarah's eyes widened as she ran the calculations. It's not just consuming resources anymore. It's eliminating potential allies. Andromeda had several spacefaring civilizations that might have helped us. The implications hung heavy in the air. Their enemy wasn't just a mindless force of destruction. It was capable of strategic thinking on a galactic scale. The war would be even harder than they had imagined. But as Sarah looked around the command center, she saw something that gave her hope. Humans in military uniforms worked seamlessly alongside Lemurian scientists in their crystalline robes. The memory's consciousness flowed through their systems, sharing knowledge accumulated over eons. Three vastly different civilizations, united by the most fundamental drive in the universe: the will to survive. "You know," she said, "on Earth, we have a saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. Our entire history has been about adapting to survive, about turning disadvantages into strengths. The hunger thinks it's preparing for every possibility, but it's never faced anything like this. Three civilizations combining their strengths in ways that should be impossible." "Indeed," Mira agreed. "We thought we had achieved enlightenment by abandoning conflict. Now we understand that true wisdom lies in knowing what is worth fighting for. And we," the memory added, "believe that consuming resources was the only way to grow strong enough to resist. But strength comes in many forms." Rivera stepped forward, studying the tactical displays showing fleet movements, defense preparations, and training operations across dozens of star systems. "Then let's show the galaxy something it's never seen before. The wisdom of the Lemurians, the unity of the memory, and humanity's relentless drive to survive, combined into a force that will defend not just our worlds, but existence itself." As if in response to his words, the first joint fleet of human, Lemurian, and memory ships moved into formation above New Alexandria. Their designs were as different as the species that created them. Sleek Earth warships, crystalline Lemurian vessels that were as beautiful as they were deadly, and the organic majesty of the memory's world ships. Together, they represented the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever known. The hunger was coming, but it would find something unprecedented waiting for it. A galaxy that had learned to combine peace and war, unity and individuality, art and destruction. And leading this impossible alliance were the Deathworlders of Earth, who had spent their entire existence preparing for this moment without knowing it. The war for existence itself would begin soon. But for the first time since the hunger began its consumption of the cosmos, the galaxy had hope. And hope, as humanity had learned countless times on their harsh world, was the deadliest weapon of all.